Hello, everyone, and welcome to Facilitating an Engaging Virtual Classroom, Building Teacher Presence from Day One. My name is Patty Webb, and I'm the Marketing Manager for Stylus Publishing. Stylus webinars bring you direct access to our authors and our latest titles. Today, I'm happy to introduce Dr. Joanne Risavuto and Dr. Laura McLaughlin, authors of the book Engaging Virtual Environments, Creative Ideas and Online Tools to Promote Student Interaction, Participation, and Active Learning. Joanne Risavuto is the Assistant Vice President for Instructional Success and is responsible for faculty programming at her institution, which includes providing and presenting a multitude of professional workshops to the faculty on various current topics of higher education. She also serves as managing editor of the website for the Office of Instructional Success. Laura McLaughlin is a professor of education and teaches undergraduate and graduate courses. Laura has over 20 years of experience working with adult learners, providing training, professional development, and coaching in corporate and educational settings. Welcome to you both, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
Great. So, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming to our webinar. We're very excited to be here. My name is Joanne Risavuto, and my colleague is Laura McLaughlin. And we are the authors of our book, Engaging Virtual Environments. I just wanted to give you some background information about our book that we collaborated together. Laura and I have known each other a very long time, used to work at the same institution, and we decided to put together all of our ideas that we thought would be very helpful for instructors, depending on if they teach virtually, asynchronously, or if they teach synchronously, or even face-to-face. All of our, a lot of our information you can use in a face-to-face classroom as well. Laura?
Oh, absolutely. We're thrilled to have you with us today. Thank you for taking the time to join us. It makes us really happy to talk about this and, getting ideas from each other. So not only do we want to share ideas with you, we want to welcome you to share ideas with us. And that's one thing about our book, and we'll talk about that later, is that, these ideas continue as we know to grow. So, there might be some things that we do right now in our class, and there might be completely different things that we come up with and decide to try out with our students, in a few weeks. So Joanne, one really good thing about Joanne and I is that we're different in a lot of ways. So Joanne is more like the expert when it comes to synchronous instruction, and I'm more the expert when it comes to asynchronous instruction. And the two of us, we came together and kind of shared, our thoughts and ideas about virtual learning. And I think it really blended nicely to have, our two different viewpoints and two different ways that we do things. So I hope that you'll see that as well when you listen to this webinar, and if you have a chance to check out our book.
Great. All right. Well, I know you all started off by putting things into the chat box, but we have our own little thing that we'd like you to do. So in the chat box, tell us which city and state you are watching from. That way, any late people coming to the webinar late, or those of you who came in just now, if you can just pop that in again, tell us where you're from. Seeing all of the different cities and states. Great.
Love it.
This is wonderful. Texas, Washington, Pennsylvania, Nevada. Make sure I say that right. Bryn Mawr, Philly, Canada. Yes, thanks for attending. That's wonderful.
That is awesome.
Great. Keep going. Keep putting them in there. I am just going to move on here. Thank you all for joining us from all over the United States and from Canada. Wonderful. Okay, so to start off, we just wanted to let you know what our goals are for this session. As Patty had said, it's going to be a very informative session, but it's also going to be very interactive. One thing that Laura and I pride ourselves on is being very interactive in our courses, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's asynchronous or it's synchronous. We try as much as possible to engage our audience / students. That way they feel like they are involved into the class and you're going to see all the reasons behind why we do what we do. But today, as your screen says, that we want to share ways with you, and we also want you to share ways with us on how our students, how we want to engage them in a virtual environment, and then increasing the teaching presence. How do we do that? And we're going to give you lots of suggestions today as well. Also deciding which tools to use that you can use within your LMS or outside of your LMS. And if you don't know what LMS is, it's a learning management system. Whether you're on Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Brightspace, all of those. We're not going to talk specifically about one. We're just going to say in general, this is what you can do in your LMS or outside of that. And then the last one, we want to discuss ways to support our learners to be self-directed and also competent learners in this virtual classroom. So these are our goals throughout the session, and as we go, we'll be monitoring the chat box and also the question and answers. So if you have any questions, just pop them in there, and Laura and I will be checking them out as we go along. All right, so I'm just going to move on. One of the things that we use, and as I said, we use a lot of interactive tools, and one of the ones that we use is called Slido. So over the next several slides, you are going to be able to access live polling. There's all different kinds of polling that we're going to be doing. So there's 3 different ways that you can access it. One, you can use the QR code that is on your screen. So if you have an iPad or a cell phone, you can scan the QR code and it'll take you right to the Slido poll. And you only have to do this once. Or you can use your browser and just put in slido.com and you plug in the code that is on your screen. I'm going to put into the chat box right now the live link that you can use to get right to Slido if you'd like to do it while you are on this browser. Or if you don't feel like accessing the Slido, you are more than welcome to use our chat box, and we will check the information there. And we like to give all sorts of options, just like we give options to our students. So if they don't have a cell phone where they could scan a QR code, they're on the computer, they can put it in their browser, or if they don't have access to any of that, they can put it into their chat box. So we like to be all inclusive. That way everybody feels like they can participate in our activities. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide. So if you've gone in there, I see that some of you have already accessed it. So I'm just asking a little touch point question here. How are you feeling right now? So are you feeling pretty good? Are you feeling fantastic? Are you feeling that you're ready for bed? Or you're feeling not so good? So different options there. And this is a program that I am going to touch on after I get through some of my slides. As I said, this is called Slido. Love, love, love this program. I use it face-to-face. I use it on Zoom. I use it in all different settings because it is so easy to use. As you're seeing in front of you, there's a slide. I didn't have to get out of my PowerPoint. It's all integrated into my PowerPoint, which I love platforms like that. But it's a live poll that I asked you, and I'm going to talk about live polling and that sort of thing. So I love to see that the majority of you are feeling pretty good or you feel fantastic. So kudos to you. So this is one of those touch points, and I'm going to explain that in a second, but I have another Slido. So you should be able to just swipe left, or your next question should automatically pop up on whatever device you are on. And like I said, if you can't access it, you can go to the chat box. But I want to ask you as the audience, why do you think we should do things like this with our students? Why should we check in with them? Why should we get their pulse point? How are they feeling? Something simple as that we start our classes with. So I'm just going to wait for everybody to just start putting some answers in. And again, with this application, With Slido, you automatically see what everybody is putting into the program. It's live. This can also be, used in an asynchronous setting. And Laura, we'll talk about that too. These are wonderful. Helps with engagement, helps them get out of their headspace, transition to focus on class. They're wonderful. Safety, love it. Belonging, connection first. We need to get feedback, ensure they feel comfortable. Yes. Temperature check. You can feel seen and heard. Excellent.
Stressful. College is stressful. Yes.
College is very stressful.
And we do need to have empathy. Absolutely. I love that.
Absolutely. So, and then again, I don't know if you're watching the other functions of Slido. Up in the right-hand corner, I can see how many people have participated. If you know how many people are in your class, you know how many have participated. And then on the left-hand side, right now, it just says active poll, but as people are typing, it will say one participant is typing, two are typing, and so forth. So that just informs me as the presenter, I know I can wait for a couple more answers. Underneath of my question, it has words, and that means, and there's a number next to those words. That just means that the participants, meaning you, that 5 people use the word connection, 4 use the word students, 3 said learning. So it gives those the majority of what everybody uses and what's been involved in their answer. This is wonderful. These are great answers. And we did a lot of research over the pandemic, Laura and I, and that's how we wrote a lot of the research that's in the book. We researched using our own faculties. We researched our own students. And this was one of the ones that we asked our students at the end, like, did you like having these checkpoints, having these pulse points, and so forth? And every single one of them said, absolutely, because it made them feel like we cared about them. It wasn't about just the class itself. It's just that we showed them that we cared about them mentally, we cared about them physically. So this is something that we like, that you should try to start your classes off just asking a simple question like that. There's many other ones too, and I'm going to share them with you. So thank you for participating. It looks like we had 34 people participate, which we love to see. High participant race. I just wanted to go over some of the feedback that we got from both our faculty who were implementing check-in points, and then also what our students said back to us when we asked them, is this something that you like doing? So I know many of you had said this and mentioned it in your answer about building community. And I know over this past semester, I've done a lot of research on building community. And this is one of those quick, easy ways to build community within your classroom. Because with using a poll like that, everybody can see where everybody is, meaning, are they feeling fantastic or they feel like they want to go back to bed? So, and this is one of those great ways to do it. And it's quick. It might take 30 seconds to do in your classroom, whether it's face-to-face, async, or synchronous. So it's a quick, easy way to get that pulse point on them. And as I already mentioned, it shows our students that we care about them. And that's one of the the number one attribute that students want to see in their professors, is that we care about them, that we show them somehow we care about them. And this is one of those ways to do that. And some of you have mentioned this too, students feel like they have a sense of belonging. And as you know, in the virtual world, sometimes they don't feel like they belong anywhere because, they're in a virtual world. So this is something that would help them connect them to each other and to you as the instructor. And then the last one is a nice icebreaker to begin class. So I always like to start off, we both like to start off with some sort of icebreaker. And this is one way that you can do. Okay, I think, Laura, did you have a question on that?
There was a question in the chat that said, why do you like to do this versus a Zoom poll? And I think that's a great question.
It is a great question. So, and I just like using Slido because It's part of my presentation. There's all different ways that I can customize it. I can put pictures in it. I can put different colors in it. And I just like doing this because I don't have to get out of my presentation. It's automatically integrated. Zoom is great too. I mean, use Zoom functionalities. I mean, if they have it there and you don't want to do it in a PowerPoint or in a Google slide, you are more than welcome not to. We like to provide all sorts of options for you as the instructor. So if you want to do a pulse point, how can you do it? You can do it in a PowerPoint. You can do it, and I'm going to actually talk about it in a second, where you can do it just by talking. You can, I don't want to get ahead of myself because it's on one of my slides how I can do it, but use the functions of Zoom if that's what you're comfortable with. And we're going to talk about a lot of different platforms that you can use during this webinar, and you're going to see tons more in our book. We're just trying to give you as many options for you to try out, and you're going to find the one that you are most comfortable with. And that's the biggest thing. You have to feel comfortable doing whatever platform you're planning on using. Try something new. It's a great way to, see what else is out there. Go ahead, Laura.
All right, so I'm going to jump in there. First of all, I want to say too that Slido is not even one of the 50 tools that we talk about in our book. This is just something we decided to do. So in the book, we don't focus specifically. I mean, although we talk about all of these different tools, it's not about the tool, it's about the engagement and how can we best engage our students depending on what we want to do with our students. So that's why it's more about how are we engaging them. But Sierra asked the question in the chat that I also asked to Joanne as we were preparing this presentation, how does this Slido work in an asynchronous environment? So we had already had this previous conversation about this. So you can make your presentation interactive. Like you can create your presentation in Google Slides and share out your presentation, and then actually share out your Slidos and have your students interact asynchronously with it. Am I right with that, Joanne?
Yes, and what Laura's saying too, so if you have something in your asynchronous class where students access web links and that sort of thing, you can provide the live link like I did in the chat box. That live link can be in one of whatever you're providing your students in an asynchronous class. Also provide them with QR codes, and I think Laura discusses providing QR codes in an asynchronous class as well. So everything that I showed on that screen, that could be provided on, say, like a page or however you use your LMS system, where the picture of the QR code, but also a live link. So students could access that whenever they access their information and whenever they're planning on doing their classwork. It's still a live poll. You just leave your poll open and they can see that as other students are accessing it. So it might not be like 25 people all at once. It might be whenever somebody accesses that code. But that was a great question.
And then in the chat, Marisa says, thank you. Options are helpful. I do find that we all connect with different platforms. Absolutely.
Yep.
The facilitator's comfort is important. Yes, number one, and allows one to really create a space where students feel held and know what is expected. So again, we don't say like, you have to use this tool. Right. How can you best engage your learners? What tools do you want to try? And you might try a tool and find that it's not really working. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, because we have a template that you can use to kind of think through what tool you actually want to do or want to use, and think through the different presences, that you might want to create in your classroom, and whether it's asynchronous or synchronous. And, this tool is also good because learners don't have to join Slido. They can just click on the link and participate. So they don't have to download anything. They don't have to do anything special. They can just participate. So just like in a Zoom poll too.
I'm going to talk about that as well.
I love Nearpod.
Yep, Nearpod's wonderful.
We do talk. That is one of the 50 tools in our book as well.
We do
Yes.
talk about that. But one thing is you should always do with your students too. If you are trying out something new, tell them. Say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know if this is going to work. And total disclosure, honest disclosure to them, and just say, let's just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I just want to try something out, because I would much rather have an instructor try something new, be willing to put it out there. And if it fails, it fails. There's so many different platforms that you can use to get students engaged. And I love how people are putting in the chat box the things that they use currently.
Yeah.
Laura and I are big into technology, obviously. And I know like Slido wasn't something that Laura was familiar with, but then Laura says, well, I use this. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what that one is. I'm going to try that out too. So even us as being collaborative, we came together to write this book and so forth. I'll find new things, Laura finds new things, and we just try them out. And
I was going to say VoiceThread is one too. Like, so that is one. I can't imagine teaching a course without using VoiceThread. Now, Joanne doesn't use VoiceThread, and that's okay. It's just we have to find what works for us, what works for who we are as an instructor, what works for our students, and our comfort level, just like Marisa said. Absolutely.
Great. Yes,
I
Flip
love
is
Flip
good.
too.
Yep.
Yep.
It used to be called Flipgrid. So Flip
Mhm.
is a great option to do.
Yeah,
Right,
so in this session, we're just modeling a couple, just to, as we talk about teacher presence, again, it's not like we're focusing on these specific tools. We just happen to be using these tools to talk about this, if that makes sense.
Right. So since I am using this right now with you, and Laura's going to do a couple of the Slidos as well, I just wanted to explain what Slido is. It can be integrated into PowerPoint or Google Slides. So I have both. I use them in both settings. With Google Slides, it's just a Chrome extension, all free. And with PowerPoint, you download it to your computer. All you have to do is download it, and then automatically it's integrated into your PowerPoint as you're creating them. Click on Slido, and then you're able to integrate all the features that are in front of you right now. That there's ratings, where there's star ratings. They can do 1 star, 2 star, whatever. They have polling, as you have already done. There are word clouds. Laura's going to be doing one of them. There's multiple choice. There's short answer. There's a lot of different ways that Slido can be used. And what as I said before, that it's integrated. I'm not, oh, hold on, I need to get out of this, get into Slido. You don't have to do that. It's all integrated into your slides. So that's one of the reasons why I use it. And I just did a faculty development on this. I taught all my faculty how to use this. And then even yesterday in one of my classes, one student said, can you teach me how to do that? Because they absolutely love it. My students absolutely love doing Slido. I see some students get out of their seats, their cell phones, they come right up to the screen and do that if they can't see the QR code. But it is definitely a fan favorite. I will say that. Okay, so if anybody, and all right, no questions, so I'm just going to move on. So other different types of virtual check-ins that have been tried and used and have been very successful. Polling, as you just saw, also ratings. I could have asked, you, how do you feel today? 4 stars meaning great, 1 star meaning not so great. And somebody had said, like, why not just use Zoom? Use Zoom. There are Zoom controls that you can use with emojis. You can use the reactions. That's what you're comfortable with. That's what you'd use. And students are comfortable with that too. So we're, again, as Laura had said, we're just trying to give you more options and maybe try out that you didn't think that you could do. And I'm finding once you use it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. I wish I used it all along. And then one of the things I really love doing during my classes, and I'm not saying I do this every single class, is this thing called cheers and jeers. And I actually read this somewhere, and I'm like, this is such a great idea because it really puts a positive spin on your class. I don't need a slide for it. I can just talk to my classes. And I ask everybody, share one positive thing that has happened to you this past week. And sometimes, you see students like him in the hall, like, oh gosh, what am I going to say? And I said, you can simply say, because I woke up today. I woke up and I was alive today. And then there's some students that will go into greater detail. This one student had said that she got a new job. And again, talking about building community, all the students were like, oh my gosh, where did you get a job? And that's fantastic. Somebody starts clapping. It's just wonderful. Oh, I got an A on a test, and we'll start, everybody start clapping and so forth. And this could work in an async where you're doing discussion board. What did you do positive? What positive thing happened to you this week? So there's lots of different ways that you could do this sort of question, but I know my students really enjoyed this because they got to say something that was very positive. And that's how I started many classes off, where students said that. And one time they even said, we start with that cheers and jeers today because I have some positive news. I'm like, that's wonderful. And then seeing how they were happy about sharing their news. Okay, I see Flower Darby in the chat, and yeah, I mean, there's all different kinds of easy ways to check in with students. And yes, I'm glad that you brought that up with Flower Darby. Lots of different ways that you can do these check-ins, but just most important, do them. They don't take a long time. I know several people, oh, I don't have the time to do that. It's 30 seconds. Going back to all the benefits of why we do these virtual check-ins, they're totally worth it. The students will remember that you were a caring instructor when you do things like this. And I do one every single class, all different variations, but I do one every single class. And Laura will talk about her asynchronous
And
part.
you can do them asynchronously, absolutely, as I always ask. How can we do this asynchronously? So within our book, we talk a lot about this community of inquiry framework and ways that we do these things. How are we building our social presence, the teaching presence, and the cognitive presence within our classroom? We provide examples of ways, we do it, but we know that you have many other ways that you do it as well. In this, webinar, we're specifically focusing on how do we build our teaching presence? How do our students get to know us? How do we, connect with them? How are they able to connect with us? How do we give them teacher directed assignments and, introduce topics, and how do we just create this environment where they know that we're there and they know that we're authentic and supportive? So I think looking at this, framework is very helpful. And again, I think each of our chapters, we come back to the framework to say, and this is from Garrison et al. In 2007. And I should have had that at the bottom there, but I'll add that. And again, just good stuff. So I think the next slide, Joanne, has a question. So what is one way that you build teaching presence in your virtual course? So if you can all respond to our Padlet if you want to do it in the chat, you can do it in the chat, or
Well, I
go.
know. Not Padlet, right?
Oh, not our
Slido.
Padlet. I'm sorry. What am I saying? I have a Padlet next. I'm a Padlet lover. And Slido is new to me, so sorry about that.
Great. And I'm just going to put the live link in the chat box again in case you have to access it. So before Laura talks about the information that's coming up on the slide, again, it's a live thing. And as you are participating, it's constantly going to keep adding it. If something comes up really, really large, that means that a lot of you are saying the same sorts of things, but
Yes.
it's good. So,
I love that. Absolutely. The one-on-one meetings in the first week are extremely important. I have found that. Oh, so this is a word. I should have said this. I'm so sorry. This is a word cloud. So one worders or a couple worders might be better. Sorry, everyone. See, this is how, when you do things with your students, you can say, oops, I meant to tell you that.
You can see on the screen that a lot of you are saying Kahoot, which is fantastic. That's a great platform to do all sorts of fun things and games and that sort of thing. Looks like video is another big one, and week. So week is probably just a word that you used in a lot of the other comments. but that's why they're coming up, and that's how Slido presents it to the audience. So
Sorry,
the
I
largest
apologize. I
ones,
should have made it clear that it was a word wall.
it's all
Yes,
good.
we will definitely, we can probably share the slides. Are you able to share the slides? Joanne, someone asked in the
I
question.
think, Stylist is going to do that.
Oh, perfect.
Yes,
Wonderful.
if you guys want to share me your presentation, we can have that shared in the follow-up email and post it to the book page as well.
Oh, great.
But I really like this because you know, again, you can see just the many things that people do to, support and build their teaching presence in the classroom. The authenticness, being authentic as an instructor is so important. I think that is critical. Our students really need to know that we're authentic and that, we care and that we're there, and who we are. So I love this. And I really like, somebody said about a welcome video each week via Flip. That's a wonderful idea. So, sometimes in an online virtual course, sometimes it can be a little isolating, and we want to make sure that our students know that we're there. And I think having a video or them hearing this is why I love VoiceThread so much, because, I make each week an interactive presentation where they know I'm there, they can hear me. But I love this idea of having a welcome video. I think that's a really nice touch. And the Padlet Jamboard meetings. Oh, I like that. Oh, that sounds exciting. And now with Padlet, you can actually have videos on Padlet. That's something like a newer feature. And if you haven't used Padlet before, you will probably love it.
Laura, I was just going to say about the video. So I know on my LMS, which we use Canvas,
oh yeah,
that I have a video of a welcome video to the actual course. So over several semesters, I've taken lots of pictures while they're in, whether it's synchronously. So if they're doing a Jamboard or something on my screen, I take pictures of that. I'll take pictures of the students while we're on Zoom, or if it's face-to-face, I'll take pictures of them interacting. And then I put it all together in an iMovie, one of those short clippets. And then I use that as my quote unquote, my story of the class. And it's a way for them to take a look at that too. Not like a weekly one like you're doing, but this is like a welcome to the class.
I love that. So, and I'm looking also in the chat, and Megan said Kahoot builds engagement, but does it build teacher presence? And I think that's an interesting comment. What do you think? I don't know. I think it could.
Well, teacher presence by making connections, because students love to play games. And I did see what somebody had put in there about how some students feel very anxious when playing Kahoot. You can actually make modifications. You don't have to play the music. You can make it a lot longer for each of the questions where students are answering them in a longer period of time. So again, going into using different platforms, change it where there is no music, where there isn't that, like, the stuff. And I love that stuff, but I know some students are like, this is too stressful, I can't do it. Or don't use a different platform. There are many other platforms out there where you can still quiz them. Even Slido they have a quiz format on there. There's no music, there's nothing like that, and they can do it on their, in their own time.
And Doreen added that, Canvas has the video responses to discussion polls. And I love that too, or discussion posts. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. There are so many different ways that we can do these things. I think what matters is that we do it. It doesn't necessarily matter what tool that we're using. It matters, how are we doing it? How are we, building this teacher presence in our courses, and how do our students know that we're there for them? So again, lots of different ways that we can do it. And also within our book, we do talk about universal design for learning, and how, we can have different options for students. So maybe one thing won't work for one student, so then we have multiple ways that they can respond. And I think that's really important. Okay, so this, you don't have to respond on this Padlet. I just wanted to show you again, if you haven't used Padlet, how simple it is to use as another way to engage our students and build teacher presence. And I also put the link in there, or you could scan the QR code. Again, if this is too much, don't worry about it. Just so you know that there are different ways. And on the Padlet, I think on this Padlet, and I added different ways that you can reflect on your teaching presence and things that you can do. So again, if you wanted to include anything on there or add anything additional to the Padlet, you're welcome to do that. Sometimes I'll ask my students, to add pictures of, like if I start a class, I'll use Padlet and say, this is me. I'll put a picture of myself or my pets or my family. And I'll say, welcome everyone in the class to add, a picture. If they don't want to add a picture, they can add a quote, just something about them. And that's really nice too, because especially when you're in an online asynchronous course, and you might not be able to get to see them, except maybe in those optional synchronous sessions or one-on-one meetings. Well, everyone can kind of see who's in the class, and it becomes, like a nice page of people and faces and, kind of getting to know people. So I love using Padlet for that reason. And I've been using Padlet for a long time. You can also do that in so many ways. You can use it. I'm trying to think how else can you use it. It's a discussion. You can use it asynchronously. You can use it synchronously. You can use it in class. Students can create their own Padlet and then share their Padlets with each other and comment on it. So yeah, somebody said it's so versatile, and it also has a bit of social media. Yes, you can set it up so that you can like and vote and do all kinds of things in the Padlet. So if you haven't tried it, feel free to go ahead and add stuff to this Padlet if you'd like. So this is just kind of like 5 ways to build teaching presence in your class. You all, suggested so many other ways. So I'm just going to do quick 5 things. Personalizing our course, let students get to know you both personally and professionally. And we're going to provide a couple examples in the next couple slides of how we do this. And you can do it however you're comfortable doing it. Again, it goes back to what Marisa said earlier. It depends on your comfort level and what you want to share. And then again, doing these consistent check-ins, and they can be asynchronously or synchronously. So don't think that just because maybe you're teaching a course that's all asynchronous that you can't do check-ins. You can absolutely do these check-ins. You can do a Padlet check-in. You can have a meme of something like that. Again, encourage, and I saw this come up in our word cloud, encourage one-on-one meetings as needed. I always get excited when my students set up meetings with me. I have a meeting with my students. So I feel like I want to encourage it more, and I want them more. But maybe they feel like it's a bother. It's never a bother. I think just students know that's where you are excited to be there and to support them. I think that really matters. So I have some students that, like, once I encourage it, they'll set them every week with me, and I'm excited. It's never too much. I mean, now if you have really large class sizes, it might be more challenging. You offer those optional synchronous sessions where people can come in at once and ask questions. Provide quick and consistent feedback. And I think this is really important. Of building in you. So not only are they hearing from you, but they're hearing from their peers. So one thing I hope that grew within our book is that we believe that learning is collaborative, and that we're not the ones that have the answers, that we'll all be collaborative and support each other and create an environment where our students are supporting each other. It's funny, as I'm going through this, I'm seeing that people are commenting on the Padlet. So I'm excited about that. Thank you. And then send video responses to student questions. So my colleague, Marisa, that is on here, she taught my son about Loom, and then I learned about Loom. That's another tool. And it's basically, if you haven't used Loom yet, it's to me like magic. So I can make a quick little video response. If my student has a question about something and they're not sure how to do something, I might do like literally a 30-second, 1-minute video or something to explain it and send it out to them. Sometimes you can, if they're having trouble with something and you figure, well, if they're having trouble, I bet you the whole class might be having trouble. And then you can share the link out to everyone. So it's another way to build teaching presence, let them know that you're there, and it's really quick and easy to use.
I think
And
they
again,
enjoy the
so many
video
other ways.
responses. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say, I think a lot of them like the video responses, because you can even do that with all of their assignments too. I know in Canvas, they let you do a video as a response.
Yes. Yeah,
and I love
absolutely.
doing that to them. Instead of typing out a big long message, you could send a video response or even just a recording of your voice. It doesn't even have to be your face. You don't want your face to be in that. So
well, and so for the Loom, it'll capture my screen. So like, say they don't know how to, they're having trouble adding to the class voice thread or something like that. I can do a quick little share screen, let them see it. Yeah, if I'm having a bad hair day, I don't have to show my hair or anything like that. I can keep that part off and share the other part and let them see that. And I think students sometimes are like, wow, thank you so much. I think that it shows, again, that teacher presence, that, I really do care. I really want them to not have to struggle through this if I can support them. So absolutely.
all right. So I think our next slide is just an example of how Laura and I share about ourselves. And again, this is your comfort level. Like I'm fine with telling them about myself and my background, because it definitely stirs up a lot of like, oh, I didn't know. Oh, you're a scuba diver. I'm a scuba diver too. Or, oh, I would never scuba dive. Oh, you love the Eagles? Yes, yay, Eagles. Or, oh, you're a Sixers fan, whatever. So this is something that I created, and I put it in my LMS where it says, about your instructor. But then also the first day of class, I go over it briefly. I'll just say, oh, this is just a picture of me and my daughter when I graduated from Widener with my doctorate and of course my book, and then some information of where I went to school, what my degrees were in, just so they know my background. But they always seem to like my favorite section, where I put in there again about being a season ticket holder to the Eagles and to the Sixers, and then about scuba diving. So it usually fields a bunch of questions from my students. So that's how I do it. But then the next slide is how Laura does it.
So yeah, I create a Padlet, since I'm a Padlet lover, and I share this with my students whenever I have a new class. I can update my Padlet as I need to. I'm going to be a grandma, woo-hoo, so I can, that'll be added in there eventually. The scholarship, our book is on there, my parents, my family, whatever is going on, I can add those kind of things to my Padlet. I am not a scuba diver. That won't be on there. Like Joanne. So again, you put on what you're comfortable with, you share with your students what you want to share with them, and not, everyone has different Sherry said condolences, Joanne. I know what she's talking about. Thank you for Joanna. I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Goodness, this wasn't on Monday, because I don't think I'd be able to do this webinar.
No, we were thinking today was going to be the parade, actually. So we were wondering what was that going to happen. But anyway, all right, we won't talk about that anymore. If anybody doesn't know, the Eagles parade, that's what we're thinking, but that didn't work out. Okay, so this is in our book, and we talk about this tool throughout our book. And again, some people like tools. Some people would rather just think of it in their head. I think, this is something you could think about, and we model how this is done in our book. So say we want to talk about Loom, the name of the tool, and then we want to kind of think through, well, how could this build the different presences that we're talking about? And is this tool embedded in my LMS, or does it have capability to be embedded? Or, these are really important questions. Is this a tool that I could use asynchronously, synchronously, face-to-face, or in both settings? with dual learners. And then you can make comments. You can think of these questions as, you're evaluating the tool. What role are you fulfilling as a virtual instructor? So in our book, we talk about the many different roles that we fill as virtual instructors.
Great.
Are you trying to fill the role of, universal design for learning? And if so, how is that tool going to support that? What organizational resources do you need? So is the tool free? Is it something that a lot of the tools that we suggest are free, or you can have like a modified version of it. So that's always an important question in our field, right? What support do we need? If we're going to use the tool, what support do we need? What support do our students need? Besides an internet connection, are there any other things? What about a backup plan? If this tool doesn't work, what can accomplish what we want it to do? So again, we never focus on the tool specifically because there are so many tools. It's more about how are we doing all of these things and how are we going to make it work? And again, like it goes back to what you're comfortable with and what you want to try. So if you go to the next slide, we actually are wrapping. We have about 10 more minutes left. If you were interested in this tool, I believe you could go to the QR code and it should ask you to make a copy of the tool. If it doesn't ask you to make a copy, I would ask that you do make a copy of it so that, it should ask you to make a copy though, if you were interested in using the tool. You can then do what you want with it. Once you make a copy, you can modify it and use it however you want. And that's kind of what our book includes, lots of different tools like this, lots of different things to help you as you think through your role as a virtual instructor. So one thing we talk about is that, as a virtual instructor, you are a facilitator and a coach. So, oh, somebody missed the QR code. Yes, there is a link and I'll show you. Do you have a link for the tool? Do I have a link?
We could always get it.
Yes, we will get a link and have the link shared when Patty sends out all the information. And it's actually also in our supplemental guide, which I'm going to share in a little bit too, but we'll make sure you have all the links for that. No problem. So how do we build teacher presence while being student-centered? So think about that for a minute. We want to build our teacher presence, but we also want to make sure that we are being student-centered. That's really important. How do we create this flexible and responsive environment? And how do we encourage and support our self-directed learners, basically? That's what we want to do. So these are just some things to think through. I'm not sure what's on. Let's see, what did we? One last poll. And it goes back to that last point. How can you create a student-centered virtual environment while still having teacher presence? This is not a word cloud. This is it's not, right?
Short answer.
Short answer. So if you want to, again, throw a short answer in there, you can go ahead and throw a short answer in there.
In addition to that, like with using Slido, you can make sure everything is anonymous. And I always say that to my students. So they're low stakes. And that's what a lot of them responded back to me at the end of the semester saying, I wouldn't have participated if my name was going to appear on the screen. Every single time I would do this, I had full participation because they didn't care if they gave a wrong answer and they were not called out on it. I could still point to it and say, oh, somebody said this and this isn't what I was looking for. So that person knew that they wrote it, but I didn't have to call them out and make them feel inferior because they gave an incorrect answer. But I always love and I always say, thank you so much for participating. These are great.
Oh, I love that too. Allow creativity, allow options. That's something we talk about a lot in our book as well. Yes, student responses to be genuine. Yeah, they need to feel safe. And we talk about that. There's a whole chapter about that, basically, building the team, creating these highly effective teams in our virtual environments.
Great.
Again, creating this collaborative environment. It's not just them learning from us, they're learning together, they're learning with each other. Wonderful.
Okay.
Yes, listen to students. Yeah, exactly. And feedback's a really, really important part of this.
Good.
Sharing. Yeah, I love that. Share with colleagues. That's the thing. That's why these type of sessions and talks are really important, because we can get ideas from each other. That's why I love working with Joanne, because she always has something new. And I'm like, oh, I need to try, like this, for example, I haven't tried this yet. So now, I need to try it. So that's how we learn about that.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And don't use discussion every time as the only way
Right.
for students to interact asynchronously. There's so many other things that we can do, right? I love that. Okay, we need to move on. You're right.
Sorry.
So, again, supporting self-directed, and because that was one of our goals. So I want to get to this. Allow students to choose the content area they focus on for a project. And these are just ideas. Encourage students to collaborate. And these are all, as we just saw, many of you already have these ideas, and share their learning with each other. Provide information within the LMS ahead of time regarding projects. Chunk them when things are due from the beginning of the course. So allow students to work on projects in chunks. Provide feedback and opportunities for peer feedback. We really believe in that as being an important part of virtual learning. And then, okay, so we do have a supplemental guide, and you will find that tool in there. Evaluating the tool is actually in chapter 1 of the guide. And I am going to put the link here as well for you. So this supplemental guide goes with our book. So you'll see all the different tools that we talk about within our book, not everything, but a lot of them. We've created a shared Google folder where we share them all with you. So we welcome you to, have access to that and just copy any information you want to use for yourself.
And I would say in our book really covers so many different tools and options for you as instructors. This is just a supplemental guide, but the book itself has so many great things in it. And Laura and I are both in teacher ed, so we are used to trying to explain things that it's, how easy it is to do something, and we give step-by-step instructions and that sort of thing. So we try to provide as much as possible within the book with pictures, quotes, great ideas and all sorts of things. So, please take a look at the book, because the book really will provide you with a lot of different options in being a virtual instructor.
And also, since we didn't talk about Slido in the book, Joanne's going to add something into our supplemental guide about using Slido, I think in chapter 2, maybe. I'm not sure what chapter, but
I think that's what we said. Yeah.
You are so welcome.
So yeah, just wrapping things up. Again, we thank you all for joining us this afternoon, or if you're West Coast, this morning. But I hope we provided you with lots of tools that you are willing to try. And it's basically trial and error. Try them out. They don't work, go to another one. But there are lots of ones that you could definitely use, and make your teaching presence known. Get into there and let your students know that you are there, you care about them, and hopefully you have learned and gained something from our webinar. And Laura, I don't know if you wanted any last minute stuff.
I think Patty's going to share is Patty going to share anything as we wrap up?
I think so.
Yep, I do have some stuff. All right. I'm going to do a quick share screen as well. So Joanne, I'm going to take your slide down.
Yeah. There we go.
All right. Here we go. Thank you to Joanne and Laura for sharing their time with us today. And thank you to everyone who tuned in live with us this morning on Zoom. If you are interested in ordering Engaging Virtual Environments, use code ENGVE20 to get 20% off the book and free shipping from Stylus. I will share the link and code in the chat bar. The webinar video replay will be available on Friday and shared on all of our Stylus social media feeds. Registrants will also receive a follow-up email with all of the links shared today. Also bookmark our Stylus webinar calendar online to stay in the loop for upcoming virtual webinar events. And if you have any feedback on this webinar or any requests for future webinars, please feel free to email us directly at stylusinfo@styluspub.com.
Thank you, everyone.